Welcome to the Sherborne podcast. For the last few weeks, we've been talking to the people of Sherborne in the front line of the fight against the coronavirus, to a doctor at the Grove Medical Centre, the matron at the Yetman, and to businesses large and small who are adapting to survive, to the brilliant people helping our friends and neighbours through Sherborne viral kindness, and to those helping us through the weeks of lockdown like the Samaritans. We've spoken to the police about the unenviable job of enforcing the restrictions, and the fire service about how they stay safe while keeping us safe. And to our MP speaking for us on a local and national level. All serious stuff. And so, on this 6th weekend of being told to stay at home, the Sherborne podcast is venturing out, virtually of course, by visiting the garden centre, getting an appointment at the hairdressers, and going to the theatre. The kids, of course, are staying in, so we'll also find out what they've been playing when they told you they were online schooling.
We have to, at certain points, just stop answering the phone because we get to capacity and we can't, we have to catch up and then go again.
I think there'll be a few men who have possibly been debating the idea of shaving their head for a while and have now done it and think, actually, I'll leave it like this.
It's an odd time. It's very weird to not be in the theatre and putting on shows for everyone, but you just got to keep that mentality of this has to pass at some point. This will pass, and soon we can get back in our theatres and we can be doing all these wonderful productions and events that we all love to do.
From RPGs to puzzle games, from PlayStation to Nintendo, here are 5 games for everyone to play.
This is the Sherborne podcast, coping with the 6th weekend in lockdown. So how are you coping after 6 weeks without seeing the hairdresser? Are you tempted to try some DIY? Madeline Pollard has been seeking advice from Sherborne's Charlotte Fairclough, the owner of Pure Hair in Half Moon Street.
I bought it 3 years ago, but I've worked there for 17 years. Not that I'd like to admit that. I'm a hairdresser there. I'm one of the star directors. Love my job, really. Miss it terribly.
Oh, I can imagine. And how have you been impacted by the lockdown, and how are you sort of coping with it and adapting to it?
Well, we had to close on the 28th when obviously the government guidelines came in, which is understandable because we do work in close contact with people. We'd sanitise everything before that after every client. We were disinfecting everything, so everything was taking a lot longer. Which I'm assuming will be exactly the same when we go back. So I think things will have to change. We shut the doors and we've been closed ever since. We are doing deliveries of root touch-up powders and colour revive conditioners, and to try and encourage people not to pick up a box dye. But it's that's it really. Doors closed. We've had contact with a few clients over email, but as for hairdressing at the moment, it's on standby.
And has that been popular, that delivery service?
Yeah, really popular. And also delivering shampoo and conditioner. People seem to, I think it's also making contact. But it's been really popular. Having someone, a professional, say, right, this is what you need to do, use this. It will stay in the hair until you wash it out. It's not a colour, it's a powder. It's more of an eyeshadow for the hair. It gives them options, whereas I think if people pick up box dyes, you run out of options really quickly when it goes wrong.
And what do you make of all the DIY haircuts that we're seeing?
Oh, it's been quite entertaining. I've had quite an entertaining, it was a Facebook. It was a FaceTime call with my sister, which ended up being an Instagram live as I was trying to teach my sister how to cut my brother-in-law's hair. And it's safe to say it didn't work. She got far too excited and didn't listen. So he had his head shaved. And a lot of the male friends that I've got, they've just opted to shave their hair. Some of them, I must admit, some of their girlfriends. I had a friend last night, she sent me a picture of her partner's hair. She'd done a really good job. I was really impressed. I'd quite like to examine it, but obviously I can't. So it's entertaining. To be completely honest, as long as you don't go too short, we're in a situation where nobody's going to see you. So it doesn't really matter. Colour is the biggest issue, I think.
And do you have any tips for people sort of trying to do it themselves?
Oh, don't. Leave the scissors alone. Just grin and bear it, tie it back and try and leave it. I appreciate with men it's really hard. I would, to be completely honest, just tidy up around your ears. If you need to get it out your eyes, if you've got fringes, just be really gentle and just trim it slowly, and take little and then go back in. Don't take lots and then think, oh, shouldn't have taken that much. But as for length and overall style, I would just leave it alone, because as awful as it sounds, everybody's in the same situation. It's not like you're going to see everybody. Nobody's really seeing each other. So we can get away with, I think, looking a little bit scruffy here and there and just hopefully waiting till we get back, and then we can tidy it up and make you look perfect all over again.
And we've heard some talk of hairdressers sort of being bribed by people who desperately want their hair dyed or cut. Have you had any really persistent customers?
No, I don't think we have. Our customers are really good, and I think everybody understands. And Sherborne is an area that it does have a slightly older population, and I wouldn't want to go to any of my customers' houses and risk giving them something. And we've obviously put things on our social media, and we're trying to keep in contact via email. And I think people are aware that it is serious. So we've been really lucky with that. We haven't had that. But I have the brand that we use, I've been doing webinars with, and they've talked about a lot of clients have been, bribing hairdressers and begging them to go to their house or to do anything. And like they say, you just can't do it. We're also not covered by insurance.
Yeah. And you mentioned sort of social media. What sort of demonstrations have you been doing on there?
So at the moment, I'm also in the process of I've been doing a lot of social media courses to try and occupy my mind. So a lot of my girls we've been teaching people how to plait hair, how to curl your own hair, just playing about really. And it gives them something to do as well. And I think they've really enjoyed doing it. So it's just a case of what people want to see. So we've been trying to fit gaps, and people say, oh, could you teach me how to do this? So we've done the odd couple videos here and there, but obviously we're trying to upload them in a spaced out so they're not all at the same time.
And within the salon community, have you had any indication of when sort of hair salons might be opened, or are you as in the dark as the rest of us?
We're as in the dark as everyone else. I've been following sort of Denmark and places like that have started to go back and what they've got in place. As for time frame for us, absolutely no idea. It didn't help the Sun newspaper the other day saying that we were going to be out for 6 months. There is a lot of, I think, scaremongering. And I think they print things and people say, oh yeah, they can't do this, they can't do that. Whereas in other countries, they've been one of the first places to go back. So I'm just holding my breath and hoping that we can go back fairly soon. We'll obviously have to have social distancing measures in place. I imagine we'll have to have a lot of PPE in place. And fingers crossed, it won't be too long.
And what are you most looking forward to when you reopen?
Oh, just getting back and seeing everybody, getting back to see all my girls, seeing all the clients, going back to the salon. It's really strange because I live in Sherborne, and the salon's in Sherborne. It's really strange going in at the moment, and it's just so quiet. It's really eerie, and it was always full of activity, and there was always music playing, and it's dead silent. It's strange. So I'm looking forward to it being back to what it was and seeing everybody again.
Yeah, because that social element is really important for sort of hairdressing and things like that.
Oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, we see on average, say, 10 people a day. And over the space of a week, a lot of my clients I've been doing for years, and they become friends, well, like family, really. So you also worry about them in this time and think, you hope they're okay, you hope they're keeping safe and well, and it's quite a scary, daunting thing, waiting to go back to hear from somebody or to know, it's impacting lots of people, but how?
And just to finish up, do you think any of the DIY haircuts, like the shaven head, do you think those will sort of stay in fashion after lockdown's lifted?
I think there'll be a few men who have possibly been debating the idea of shaving their head for a while and have now done it and think, actually, I'll leave it like this. As for, you might get the odd few people that say, oh, I've grown my regrowth out this much, I might try it. I might try and grow a bit more colour out, and I'll go back natural, which will be good. I think other than that, I think pretty much as soon as we open, I think it'll go back to normal and people will go, I need my haircut. I hope it does.
Are you expecting a tsunami of customers when your doors reopen?
I'm hoping for a tsunami of customers. To be completely honest, I don't know. I think people will still be scared. I think people still will be frightened. And I think it depends on when we go back and what social distancing and what situation COVID is in, where we are on the chart. I think will depend on how many people we get through the door, to be honest.
And how are you coping financially?
Yeah, well, everything's just frozen. I mean, the council have been fantastic. We got a grant. Our grant came through really quickly, which was fantastic. And obviously, my girls are being paid. They're happy. I mean, they're only getting 80%, but 80% is better than nothing at all. And yeah, I think it's made all of us look at how much we spend, how much you rely on finances, and I think it is hard. I think it's really hard. And financially, I think it's going to be hard for the next few months for the business, even when we do go back. But fingers crossed, hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel.
You're listening to the Sherborne podcast. In normal times, this would be the early May bank holiday weekend, although even without the current emergency, Monday's bank holiday was put back to Friday for the VE Day commemoration, and would probably all be off to the garden centre. They're all closed, of course, but behind the walls at Castle Gardens there's been frantic activity, coping with the phones ringing off the hook and getting ready for when they can open up again. Louise Burks and her husband Mike founded Castle Gardens in 1987.
We've got quite a bit to do, before we can reopen to the public. We've got to put screens up by the tills. We're organising a one-way system through the garden centre, and making lots of space by the tills to space people out and rearrange the centre. So we're working late tonight and over the weekend to sort of make sure we've got everything in place.
Have you actually had any advice that you are about to be allowed to reopen?
No, there's a sort of there's a feeling that we might maybe be in the first batch of businesses to be released, but that's nothing more than that, really.
So what's the lockdown meant for the business so far?
Well, it was interesting. We sort of shut on the 23rd of March. We'd actually decided to close before the government, instructed everyone to close, because of everybody working here was starting to feel a bit nervous, and so we had decided that actually, we should respect that and close. But then we decided that we couldn't, bear for all the plants just to go to waste, and all the nurseries that are busy growing them all for us, to not have anywhere to sell their plants, and wanted to keep everyone gardening. So we decided sort of straight away to continue taking phone orders, but to deliver everything out. So we got sort of 6 vans going out, and we're just answering the phone and emails and taking orders that way. So it's almost like we've changed completely the business. So instead of it being a retail business, it's sort of like a big picking area. And once the phones have been answered, somebody collects the order and then goes out round the whole garden centre picking the whole order, and then takes it to the till where somebody else then processes it. And then we've got this great big area in the middle where we're putting all the orders, like A to Z, and then they're taken out through the front and delivered out. So, yes, it's like completely changing your whole business.
Have you been swamped by it with orders?
Yes. So we can only answer. Our limiting thing is actually how much we can physically deliver. And so we have to, at certain points, just stop answering the phone because we get to capacity and we can't, we have to catch up and then go again. So that's what we've been doing. So it's a very different way of doing things.
But when you reopen, I guess you won't be allowed to open the cafe for a while. Are you expecting that?
No, we're expecting that I think that, will be some time off, actually, the cafe. So yes, I think that we've got a farm shop at our Brimsmore Garden Centre in Yeovil, and they've been able to stay open, the farm shop there. But all the cafes, I think, will be shut for some time.
How have the government measures helped you with the business, the business rate relief, the loans, and the furlough scheme? Are any of your staff furloughed, or are you trying to keep them all busy?
Yeah, so all of our restaurant staff are furloughed, and then some of our people that work in the garden centre, if they've got, elderly relatives or children at home, or in a vulnerable group, they're also furloughed as well. And so, yes, actually, the first furlough money has just come through, so that's good news. So that has sort of worked, and then obviously, it has massive implications to your business when you just have no money coming in. And at the moment, we're working like mad, but we're doing about 20% of what we would normally do, if people were coming through the door. And so that has massive implications. And so it's a case of sort of talking to banks and getting, big loans to sort of make sure that we, can keep going through this, keep paying all our suppliers and keep it all going.
Gardening's so important for some people. What are your customers been saying on the phone when they get through?
Oh, they've been absolutely delighted. We've had such lovely feedback of people saying thank you so much for keeping us going, especially in all that lovely weather. How frustrating for people if they couldn't, be in their garden and be planting and be, doing things. And, people have been planting vegetables and herbs and now they're sort of planting at pots and hanging baskets. So it's such a great thing to do is gardening. It sort of keeps you, if you're at home, especially if you're in complete lockdown, what better than to go out and do some gardening. It keeps you sort of sane and keeps you busy and helps your mental health, and you feel like you're sort of doing something good. So people have been really delighted with us. It's a bit frustrating, I think, sometimes for some people because it's because we're answering the phone as much as we possibly can, but obviously normally you'd have 1,000 customers a day. And, we can't deliver that much in a day, so we can only answer so many phone calls. And so sometimes people are sort of delighted when they can actually get through. They sort of think they've won the lottery, they've got through and they can get their plants.
So are you expecting an army of gardeners to rush on the gates when they get reopened?
Well, with the government guidelines, what we can do is I think you can have one person per 1,000 square feet into the store, and so we're thinking that's about 100 people at any one time. And so the next challenge is going to be limiting the number of people and having it staggered so people can come in and have lots of space when they get inside. So that's going to be the next challenge, really, is to keeping it safe, keeping people so that people can keep their distance, and trying to spread out the demand a little bit so everyone doesn't all arrive at once.
How are you going to do that? How can you ensure a safe environment?
So we're going to open up a different door so people come in a different door, so they don't come in where the tills are, they come in a different door at the top, and a one-way system, lots of space around. And then we'll have a sort of, after we've got to 100 people inside the garden centre, then we'll operate a one in, one out. And then also what we're thinking about is that we might do just a compost, a separate till, just if people want to compost, so they can come in, drive in, and we can just load the compost into their car and they can just sort of drive out if that's just what they want. So that's the plan. It's strange sort of times, because I think things will change all the time. I think it'll be a constantly shifting, changing thing. And So we've got to just adapt all the time and sort of, make it better.
Do you expect your online sales to continue or your telephone sales to continue, or is that something you...
Yeah, I think they will, because I think some people, obviously aren't really, allowed out at all. And so we'll expect that. And that's going to be another challenge, sort of keeping this sort of online phone system, phone orders going, as well as being open. And so we're just thinking about how we're going to do that. And, perhaps we'll move, all the picked orders will move into the restaurant garden. So we'll move it all back there and do it from there, so that there's more, still lots of space for everyone to shop when they come into the centre.
Do you think that'll be a major part of your business in the future?
Well, I think one of the reasons we were able to do this, a lot of garden centres, were finding it too hard to do this, but we already do a big delivery service. So we've always done, for the last 32 years that we've been in business, we've done free delivery within a 25-mile radius. So in normal times, we have 3 vans on the road every single day delivering. And so obviously now we've got sort of 6, but we are used to it. It's my husband actually who organises the deliveries, and we've just expanded it. It's and done it. So it'll definitely be. It's a massive part of our business always, but it might even be greater. I agree.
Louise, if we can get to Castle Gardens again soon, have you got any tips for what we should be looking out for?
May is just a great time for bedding plants. So there's, potting up, planting up tubs and window boxes and hanging baskets. So, using planting up geraniums and fuchsias and begonias and all sorts of bedding plants for all sorts of lovely things, because they just can give you so much pleasure for such a long time. So it's a great time for doing that. And also it's still a good time for, planting up vegetables. So, tomato plants and lettuce and, keeping that, what better to plant up things that you can also eat, and herbs. So it's a very prime time for all of those things.
You're listening to the Sherborne podcast. You can catch up with any of our special episodes on how Sherborne is coping with coronavirus wherever you get your podcasts.
I've always known that the Yetmans very much revered by the local communities. The list is endless. I could sit here all day and tell you all the things that the local community have done for us.
And then we decided actually perhaps we should do just a little bit more than that. So if somebody wanted their shopping doing, we could help. Or if somebody wanted their prescriptions collecting, we could help. So that's how it started, and it just sort of, within the first week, it exploded.
Oh my goodness. Well, 2 weeks ago, I never made a video. I didn't know what an external hard drive was.
Everyone has to wash their hands before they get dressed, get on the fire appliance. Obviously, once they'd been to the incident and dealt with the incident, they'd come back. Everything would be disinfected, and before they leave, they wash their hands.
I think it's difficult for all of us, and we're definitely all of us in the same boat.
We've most probably lost about 90% of the business.
We've got enough for our current needs, and certainly for the next few weeks, even if things do start to ramp up and we're having to see more and more patients with suspected symptoms, and where we feel patients are at risk, we've got the appropriate PPE to give them.
My main concern is how the government will try and claw back their very generous gifts of grants and wages.
The guidance and the message is clear, that we do still need to stay home.
That stupid comment about as long as you're walking longer than you can drive, then you can drive to walk, is just ridiculous.
What we're trying to prevent is a second peak, which could, in uncontrolled circumstances, be bigger than the peak that we seem to be at the moment.
Many people have this view that flower farming might be wandering around in a white linen suit with a drug over your arm, casually snipping at flowers. The reality is it's absolutely 24/7.
This is the Sherborne podcast, and we'll continue coping with the 6th weekend in lockdown with a trip to the theatre. Charlotte Wood is the box office supervisor at Yeovil's Octagon Theatre and Westland's entertainment venue.
I've been working at both the venues for a number of years, but in my current capacity, I've been doing this job for the last 3 years now. In my youth, as it were, I used to be a professional actress as well. I worked with small-scale touring companies around the UK and overseas, and I am still involved in amateur dramatics with several local groups and things like that.
And so how has your role as sort of box office supervisor changed during the coronavirus crisis, and what's the impact been on all the shows at the Octagon?
I mean, I will say that as a whole, the theatre community, it's so wonderful. There's that underlying theme of the show must go on, and I think that's kind of pulled through. And even in these very uncertain times when obviously we can't be in our venues and we can't be performing the shows we love, so much has been rescheduled rather than postponed, but rather than just outright cancelled, that it's really encouraging to see people just sort of putting their best mindset on and just getting on with things as they can. Obviously for myself, not being in our venues and not being with my wonderful box office team is strange, to say the least. I'm working the box office still, and we still have a very small number of people manning the box office phone lines, contacting customers, type of shows as we're working our way through. It's an odd time. It's very weird to not be in the theatre and putting on shows for everyone, but you just got to keep that mentality of this has to pass at some point. This will pass, and soon we can get back in our theatres and we can be doing all these wonderful productions and events that we all love to do.
How far in advance have you been sort of postponing shows or cancelling shows?
So for us, we don't have an exact date as such. Everything's still quite up in the air. We have some events that aren't able to go on as far off as sort of July time, but it's because it's not just the actual performance itself, it's having that rehearsal period to be able to put the performance on, that obviously as people aren't able to do that, it affects shows possibly later on than this lockdown may continue for. But we've got just over, I think it's just over 100 individual days that have been either cancelled or postponed in terms of performances at both of our venues. So it's been a lot of work for everyone to work through, but everyone's been so upbeat and so positive, and we're still sort of talking to each other daily and still having a laugh like we would in the office normally. And I think we're up to contacting customers for shows that were due to happen in June of this year, and hopefully within the next week or so we should be up to date in terms of contacting everyone. But it is as you can imagine, quite a labour intensive process to contact all the customers for all the events, but we are getting there. We're getting there, which is good to know. It keeps us busy, certainly.
That's good. And in terms of the casts, are they still rehearsing via Zoom or sort of running lines and things like that, or is everything very much been put on pause?
Well, I know that there's some companies that are still doing Zoom rehearsals. One of the ones that was due to happen in April with us is Project Play, Dad's Army. I know they've been doing Zoom rehearsals. I've seen things on Facebook for that. Our sort of biggest amateur dramatic company, Yaos, quite well established in Yeovil, are currently in Zoom auditions for their next production of Chess, which is due to take place in October this year. And I think lots of other, I know I'm involved with a company myself that do performances in street, and they haven't been doing any rehearsals, but they've been meeting up once a week to do musical theatre themed quizzes online. And I think everyone's still keeping that sense of community going, even though we can't meet up and we can't sing songs together. There's still lots of activity going on online, and everyone's really keen to sort of keep the love of theatre alive, I guess. It's still coming through, which is really nice to see, just how well everyone's bonded together.
That's really encouraging to hear. And in terms of when lockdown lifts, do you see a sort of socially distanced theatre format with sort of the audience sitting far apart, the actors on stage, being on opposite ends of the stage? How do you think that will look?
we just don't know at this stage. We don't know how long lockdown's going to go on for. We don't know how long theatres themselves will have to stay closed for. And as you say, whether we have a sort of staged approach to going back to the theatre where you have to have people sat a certain amount of seats apart, or whether we can just open as normal and easily go back to normality. I think understandably there's going to be a lot of apprehension for people about going back to theatre or sitting in an auditorium. But I also, having spoken to so many customers over the last few months and other people that do performing arts, everyone's so keen to enjoy the arts again and so keen to experience that. I think in these dark times you need some joy and you need something to keep you going. And I think the thought of, I myself have booked theatre tickets for something in November. Now, whether that's able to happen, I don't know, but I need something to look forward to. I need to think that I can go back to, that world that I enjoy, because it is an escape and it is taking you away somewhere. And who knows whether it's going to change how we go to the theatre or how things are organised. It's all a bit of unknown at the moment. We don't, but hopefully I have to keep telling myself that at some point we're going to go back to normality, whether that's this year, next year. And obviously the main thing is to keep everyone safe. The main priority for us as a venue and, everywhere in the world at the moment is whatever we are doing. The main focus is to make sure that we are keeping everyone as safe as we possibly can, whether that's staff, the audience, or the performers on stage. So whatever we have to do, if it has to be small steps and slight changes, we'll figure it out as we go, same as we always have.
Indeed. And what's the government support been like for the theatre community?
It varies. I mean, obviously, lots of people. They had the recent announcement about self-employed people being able to claim back on wages lost, which is wonderful for actors and the acting community as a whole. I know that obviously a lot of theatres rely on ticketing income, so they will be quite hard hit by this pandemic. And it's wonderful to see, so many people in so many different areas, instead of having refunds, offering to donate their tickets to the theatre to try and keep them alive for when everything comes back. I think the government's doing as much as it can possibly. There is always room for improvement, as anything. But I think this is, the word keeps being said a lot, but these are unprecedented times. We've never been through anything like this before. And I know a lot of friends that I have who are professional actors working in the community have taken the opportunity to take on other roles to try and help out during this time, whether that's working in care homes or working in supermarkets or doing I have a friend who does therapy at home. She does Reiki, but distance Reiki at home for people in their own homes, and that's really taking off and helping people with their own personal well-being. And I think that's something that's really important, is that we all make sure we're looking after our own mental health at this time. And I know, for example, we're very lucky as a theatre to be run by the South Somerset District Council, who have just been fantastic during this time. We've been working on a wellbeing hub, which is based at our Westlands venue, to deliver food packages out to the community and for people who really need it and desperately need food. They're also there just to call people and check on them and how they're doing, and that really helps in terms of that wellbeing side of things. And that's people from all over the council have been asked to come in and help with that, and everyone's been so generous with their time and actually what they've been able to bring to the table. It's really inspiring to see. Just, I think in these difficult times, the good that people are willing to give to others is just, it's wonderful.
And in terms of moving forward as well, in keeping sort of that community spirit alive, could you see yourself perhaps streaming performances to viewers at home?
It's possible. Never say never. It's definitely a possibility. We already have, a wonderful film program down at our Westlands venue where we have lots of films that go on. It's nothing we've ever had to do before, so there'd be a few logistics to work out as to how we do that. But there are so many wonderful things that you can stream from many different theatres online at the moment, especially the bigger theatres, the National, and obviously Andrew Lloyd Webber has his own YouTube feed where he's doing his shows once a week. That it's wonderful to still, I have to do it every so often, go away and watch a theatre show, watch a play, watch a musical, watch anything to give you that sense of being in an audience and being a theatre again. Whether we can do it ourselves, I honestly don't know, but I know that on our social media channels, we've been promoting people's work that have been streaming, and always if somebody, if you would like to see something from us, then it's worth getting in touch, because you never know.
Charlotte Wood from the Octagon talking to Madeline Pollard. Now, if you think your teenagers are upstairs studying online with a lesson stream from the school's maths department, they're probably not. Much more fun would be the latest games. Here's Harry Dyson-Coop with some ideas.
For the past 40 years, video games have been a staple for in-home entertainment, and there is no better time than right now to sit down and play. From RPGs to puzzle games, from PlayStation to Nintendo, here are 5 games for everyone to play.
Trust only in the Force.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is the latest addition to the Star Wars universe. Released in 2019, the game was developed by Respawn Entertainment and published by EA. The game is set between episodes 3 and 4 of the film series. You play as Cal Kestis, a Jedi Padawan who has survived Order 66. On his journey to restore the fallen Jedi Order and to complete his training, Cal will gain new allies and abilities while being pursued by the ruthless Empire. The game has large worlds to explore and many secrets to be discovered. The main storyline of the game will take around 20 hours to complete. While this is far from the simplest game on this list, with many mechanics to consider while playing, it is a fun and fulfilling game to experience, and I would recommend this to anyone who is looking for something challenging and exciting to play. Jedi Fallen Order is available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One and PC. Slowing things down now, Animal Crossing New Horizons was released by Nintendo on the 20th of March 2020. The game is the 5th in the Animal Crossing series. It is set on an island where you can create a customizable character. You will explore and develop the island along with its community. The game is open-ended and has seasonal events, the most recent being Bunny Day, an event inspired by Easter. A unique feature about this game is that it plays out in real time. This means an hour in the game is an hour in real life. This game has lots to offer. It is slow-paced and would be perfect for someone who wants a chill game to play.
Look at you, sailing through the air majestically, like an eagle, piloting a blimp.
Now, for a series of games which some have called the best games of all time. First released in 2007, Portal is a first-person puzzle platforming game which, as the title suggests, uses portals to solve. To progress through the story, you will have to be thinking with portals, using your momentum to reach certain items, and using portals to complete the puzzles. This game is full of interesting and funny moments, mostly made by the voice of the antagonist, GLaDOS, an AI that controls Aperture, the facility you navigate through. The sequel, Portal 2, continues the story, exploring the history of Aperture Labs and its founder, Cave Johnson, who is voiced by J.K. Simmons. You will also be joined by Wheatley, another AI character, and the ever-present turrets. Portal 2 also introduces a co-op mode, so that you can play with friends. The Portal series was released to great success, and has been the source of many internet memes. Both games combined will take around 8 hours to complete, 2 for Portal and 6 for Portal 2. I would recommend these games for anyone who likes challenging puzzles, along with a bit of humour. let's move on to a landmark of open world design. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an action-adventure RPG released for the Wii U and Nintendo Switch in 2017. You play as Link, who has awoken from a 100-year sleep and has lost his memory. After a brief introduction to the game's mechanics, you are free to roam the Kingdom of Hyrule. As you progress through the story, you will encounter shrines, mini-puzzles that will take knowledge and skill to complete. You will travel through deserts, up mountains, and soar through the skies on your paraglider. As you do, Link will begin to regain his memories, and your final goal is to defeat Calamity Ganon and save Princess Zelda from their eternal battle before Hyrule is destroyed forever. The game will take around 60 hours to complete. I would recommend this game for anyone who has a sense of adventure and likes a challenge. It was announced in 2019 that a sequel to Breath of the Wild was in development. Finally, for a game you've most likely heard of, Minecraft was released in 2009 by Mojang. This sandbox adventure game is the best-selling video game of all time, with over 180 million copies sold across all platforms and still has over 112 million monthly active players. Minecraft loads a randomly generated blocky world for you to explore. The main mode for Minecraft is Survival, which is self-explanatory. The others are Hardcore and Creative. Hardcore mode, whereas Survival you have to survive, but in this mode you only have one life and there is no respawn. Creative mode is where you have no health bar and you have access to every single block in the game. You can build whatever you want and the only limit is your imagination. Minecraft also has a multiplayer mode in which you can build and survive with friends. The multiplayer mode also led to the creation of servers. These servers allowed people from all over the world to play mini-games that people had created. Some of the most popular games to play were survival games Skyblock and Spleef. Minecraft started to gain traction on YouTube, and this is what led to the game reaching a wider audience. It was through channels like Skyder's Minecraft, Nerdcubed, and In the Littlewood that Minecraft became the global sensation that it is today. Even in 2020, nearly 11 years after the game's initial release, Minecraft is still getting regular updates. As of this show, it is currently on version 1.15.2. With different dimensions and vast biomes to explore, I would highly recommend this game for anyone, as there is literally no limit to what you can do with Minecraft.
That's it for this 6th weekend lockdown special of the Sherborne podcast. We'll have another episode next week as the government considers how and when to ease the restrictions. This episode was produced by Madeline Pollard and Harry Dyson Coop. The Sherborne podcast is a Red Mike production for Brookmore Media.